Good evening, Daedalians. How am I doing back there? Everybody good? Okay, we'll wait till Fossil gets his drink and then we'll get started. All right, Fossil? Good to go, man. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for being here, all the great guests and so on. It's great to meet everybody and have a good time. Spectacular evening. We have set a record for a February meeting, about 113 folks, so good on you. Well done. And for all the Yacht Club staff and Obi and Bonnie and Nomad, everybody checks you in, and Lico, what he does, put them together one more time. We couldn't do it without him. We're all here. Admiral Unruh, good to see you and Dee again. Admiral Quinn, sir, Gene, thanks for being here. Admiral Kosad, Amy, fantastic. And of course, General and Laura here. We have plenty of doctors in the house. Anybody has any issues, just raise your hand. We got all kinds of doctors, so we're good to go. Okay, we've got juice on the table, so we're ready to toast, and I'll get Yogi will kick off here momentarily, but we got to get the Fighting Mumbles up here one more time to lead us in prayer. Would you please stand?
Please stand and bow your heads. Great to see you all here tonight. Lord God, Creator, Immortal One, thank you for this magnificent day. Thank you for our continued health and love of friends and family. Thank you for our common bonds created in the skies that you provided us to soar in and enjoy. Thank you for our homeland, its fertile fields, magnificent mountains, and beautiful shores. Please protect those now tasked with the duty to defend our nation and our liberty. Let us never forget those that gave all and those that gave dearly who stood the watch. Allow us to be your sentinels and give us the strength, energy, and focus to bring greater glory to you, our eternal Father. Bless this food, bless all those that prepared this event for our enjoyment and fellowship. Please bring comfort and speedy recoveries for those that are ill, especially Jim Jowers and Whit Johnson. May God rest the soul of General McGee, one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen. In your most powerful and holy name, we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take your seats. Mr. Provost Marshal. Please raise your water glasses to our departed brothers and sisters. Mr. Provost Marshal.
I would like to propose a toast to the Commander-in-Chief, the office of the President of the United States.
To the office of the President of the United States. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, everybody settle down. We'll keep the politics and the religion until later on. Or right now, if you wish. Okay, we got a lot of guests. And we'll start off with George. George, where are you? Raise your hand, George. I'm walking to you with a mic.
Well, thank you very much. I brought a guest with me today that has worked for me for about a year and a half. His name is Dave Pruitt, and I had Dave do a little bio for me because my memory's so bad. But I'll just read this to you now. Dave Pruitt is retired lieutenant colonel, was an attack helicopter commander, senior parachutist, military controller. He served in the 82nd and 101 Airborne Division, Special Operations Command, and multiple cavalry organizations during his career. His last Army assignment was as the Director of Resource Management at Fort Rucker, Alabama. After retirement from the Army, he continued to serve the nation as a military contractor in maintenance and logistics organizations, and currently doing so with Sky Warrior. He is Vice President of Government Operations, including the Navy knife contract. He and his wife, Denise, live in Milton, Florida, and enjoy the Florida coast and adjusting to the Navy pace of life. And I don't know if that's faster or slower, but anyway, thanks very much for Dave. Dave Penn.
Welcome here, Dave. And since we're at the right table, Z-Man, over to you.
Hard to follow that act. We've brought with us tonight Craig and Ray Weideman, Bad Rod call sign. He's a light attack guy, flown a lot of A4, A7, F-18 time. He's got probably 7,000 plus flight hours and over 800 traps. So he's been around the thing. Four commands. He was CO of VFA 147 out at Lemoore, and was with us on the Nimitz and Desert Storm. He also went on from there to China Lake to be CO of VX-9. He decided to take a little relaxing time, and so he headed off to the Pentagon and spent a couple of 3 years up there in Purgatory, and there was the F-18 desk up there at the Pentagon. Came back out of that and went to a CAG job, CAG 20, and flew about everything they had. Next was the best, and that was when he relieved me at Naval Aviation School's command. So he was a great relief, great guy. They're in town. Bad Rod went on after that and went back to Virginia Beach and kind of stood up the F-18 simulator program there at NAS Oceana. Stayed there for a while, taught the young men and women how to fly the Hornet, and then he decided he wanted to come to the promised land where life is good here. So they've returned back to Pensacola. They've just bought a house out in Nature Trail, settling in, and so doing well out there. So they're going to be with us for a long time, we believe. Ray there, his wingman for about 50 years. She was the wingman that he relied on, and she's had a little time in the school system as a counselor. Then went into the realty business, and then she decided that was all too tough. So she started to travel, and she was the world's greatest traveler. So, Ray, welcome, you guys. Good to have you in town. Really glad to be here. Take care. You bet.
Call sign?
Bad Rod.
Bad Rod.
There's a story, but I
No
can't
more
tell
Craig. Bad Rod. Good to go. Obi?
Thanks, Dink. Tonight, we've got neighbor guests of ours, Joe and Delana Calle. As it turns out, also, Joe is a class of 81 from the Academy, just as I am. And Pete Morgan is a class of 81. We've kind of got an 81 table going here. And Greg Dinkler, Dink's brother, was a classmate of ours as well. And he's watching over all of us here tonight. So he's an honorary member, but this is an 81 table. But again, Joe joins us. He was flying in a different medium than we were. He was flying under the surface in nuclear subs. And after the Navy, he went on to work for TVA, and then just recently finished up his post-government career working for the Emiratis over in Abu Dhabi, bringing their nuclear power plants on board. So he is one of the newly retired individuals, fully retired. And we hope he stays that way. He's also a neighbor of ours, lives down the street. And we've got, in fact, Mark and Ellie Doyle are neighbors of ours, too. So it's really kind of a street thing here. But again, we wanted to introduce Joe and Delana to this wonderful group of folks. And we think that they would be great supporters as of the Daedalians here, flying submarines. So at any rate, that's who I've got.
That's right. Everybody fly something. Hey, for Craig and Ray, just to let you know that at this table is the flight captain for the Nature Trail Daedalian Detachment, Admiral Kozad.
I think that's determined by the amount of dues I had to pay tonight.
John, you got a table full, sir.
Okay.
Here it is.
Thank you. Let me get my my notes. I'm John Carr, and I have a table with 3 aviators and their companions that I will introduce you.
Microphone.
Well, let's see. That I will introduce you to tonight. First, Jack and Barbara Janicki. This is Jack right here. Jack is a Zoomy. He graduated in '67, I believe, and flew the KC-135s. He separated and went to law school and has practiced in Mobile ever since. By the way, his wife Barbara and my wife Trish have been great friends since high school, okay, so we go way back. Jack will attest to this, but when a KC-135 pilot like Jack goes into a O Club, if there are any fighter pilots in the bar, he'll never have to buy a drink, because these guys saved our bacon so many times in Vietnam when they would come out of their patterns, go into danger to help us refuel because we were just about to flame out. So thank you, Jack.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Next is Lars and Carol Anderson. Lars was born in Sweden and came here with his parents. I guess they couldn't leave you behind, could they, Lars? So it made sense for them to bring you.
I was a dreamer.
Yeah.
From here into the world.
He's a graduate of the University of Oregon. He's a duck. We've flown together the longest in the group, from F4 training at George Air Force Base to our combat tour at the with the 469th in Karat, Thailand, and then afterwards in Kadena, flying with the 18th TAC Fighter Wing. I went into Stanaval at Kadena, and I gave Lars a couple of check rides. I hate to say this about him with him listening to it, but he has the best hands of anybody I ever flew with, okay, just so you know. That's, he's quite good. Next is Nick Holoviak. Nick was one of the best backseaters in our combat squad in the 469th. He went from combat tour to flight school. He was a backseater in combat. Aced flight school, flew all models of the F4 and flew all models of the F-16. Of his 25-year career, he flew 28-year career. He flew 25 years of them, which is pretty impressive, as all you guys know out there. So he did a great job. He also has, you could ask him about this story, he has the unusual attribute, I guess, of punching out of an F4 after a landing in Karat that didn't go well during a rainstorm. And he punched out, I said, was it 0-0? You know, 0 altitude, 0 speed. And he said, it was at 0 altitude, but about 125 knots sideways. Okay, so anyway, he got out, and he had his full career and did great. So I want to welcome Nick. And one final point I want to make. Think about each of their last names. Janicki, Granith, Holoviak. Not a single one of them comes from the British Isles, if you think about it, okay? And I guess Jack, forebears came here the earliest, his great-great-grandparents. Like I said, Lars immigrated he was born in Sweden. Nick's grandparents came from Russia. All 4, by the way, they said in one place. So I think it says a lot of good things about this country that their forebears saw the opportunity, came here to this country, and produced people of this quality. We live in a great country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. A table full of future Daedalians. Bad Bob, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nick. As always, I got what I call the old and the new. I'll start with the not so old, but for those folks who haven't had a chance to meet Carl Schwalm, please stand up, Carl. So Carl, a Marine. How many Marines we got in the room? All right. Carl, now, in addition to that, Carl is an Academy graduate of 71. How many 71 graduates in the room? Oh, look at that. See? We got a 70. You got a 70. All right. So also, rotary wing guy, age 46s. How many frog people in the room? Oh, yeah. All right, got some of those. That's a good thing. Also, T-28s, US-2s. That's on the active duty side. Later, he got involved with the Huey, flying both versions of the Huey. Currently, Carl is the commandant of the Marine Corps League here in Pensacola. Carl, welcome. Great to have you at our table tonight. Thank you so much. Now we go to the newer side of the crowd. So we're blessed tonight to have 3 recent graduates of their respective academies, 2 from the Naval Academy, 1 from the Coast Guard Academy. All of them are in flight school or in some phase of getting ready to start flight school. So I'll start with Jack McNiff, because he's our Coast Guard guy who's actually currently in flight school. So stand up, Jack, please, if you would. Jack is from Corpus Christi, Texas. Graduated from the Coast Guard Academy of 2021. That's pretty recent, folks. So that's merely 50 years after Carl graduated, because we have this great 50-year reunion thing going on at our table. So it's a good thing. So Jack is just started what we call the knife program. Going to do great stuff. Jack, great to have you here. Thank you so much. All right, Andrew, you're next. Andrew Walsh over here, also a Naval Academy graduate in this case, from 2021, hails from Cincinnati, Ohio. He's celebrating because Cincinnati has had nothing to celebrate regarding football in a really, if ever. So he's really enjoying life. The Cincinnati Bengals have got their city up on its ears. So you about ready to start? Oh my God, here we go. Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much. And lastly, Evan Morris. So Evan, if you'd stand up, please. Also, Naval Academy of 2021, hails from the cold climes way up there in what state?
Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah. Up there in Montana. So doing well. He and I have had a chance to fly together here in a little bit. He's getting ready to start the knife program. And I got to tell you, these are great guys. Our future is really in good hands. Come by and talk to these guys later. They haven't committed to a community yet. So if you want to convince them to come to your community, let them know they need to hear from you. Thanks so much.
Outstanding. Thanks, Bad Bob. At my table, Dustin, if you'd please stand. Dustin is an instructor out at Whiting Field. He's a Cobra pilot, a Marine. Hoorah! He got his wings in 2016. He's a graduate of the University of South Carolina. And he is having a good time here. Brand new, wants to be a Daedalian, hanging in there. Good for you, man. And of course, several of you have already met our guest speaker. Amanda, if you would stand, I'll introduce her a little bit later, but she's a senior combat systems officer, and she is going to knock it out of the park with her presentation later tonight. Mr. Provost Marshal. To our honored guests. And for all the Army that are here, Yogi, for you, welcome aboard to one more Army guy. Hoorah!
Yeah! Hoorah!
Enjoy your dinner. Back with you shortly. Good. Hey, I just wanted to update everyone real quickly on just where the flight is, what we're doing, and then I'll turn the mic over to Dan to talk a little bit about DFT for 22. As of right now, thanks to OBI's expert financial management, we have approximately $15,000 in our operating account right now. We are poised and ready. Thanks to all of you, we're poised and ready for the scholarship season. T-Bert, where are you? Raise your hand, T-Bert. T-Bert, things are changing a little bit. Bad Bob will update you on those changes. But as you heard already, last year we contributed $4,000. We're going to do a little bit more this year. But Daedalian National matched that with $14,000 for our 4 ROTC kids that are out there. So that's fantastic. So we have the flexibility now, thanks again to your generosity, to contribute even more, which means Daedalian National will match more for our kids. And there are other opportunities that will happen. And T-Bert is all over that. Right now, in 2021, National had $194,000 for 111 students. Their target is 130 students for 2022. So what my request to the flight is if you have anyone out there, nieces, nephews, first cousins, second cousins twice removed, that you believe that they have this flying bug in their belly and they're going to go off and pursue some sort of engineering program, T-Bird, that's pretty close to what kind of the requirements are for Daedalian money, is let us know, let T-Bird know, let me know, let Dan know, because we have the resources to help them out. So please don't be shy when that happens. Scholarships, we are currently funding 4 scholarships, but that's going to change. Again, Dan's going to talk a little bit about that. Some good news for the flight. Membership, the overall Daedalians is about 10,000 members. 5,900 of those members are life members. Several of you in this room are already life members. If you do not want me or Obi to remind you ever of your national dues, that is the way to do it. Become a life member. For those of us who are relatively mature, it's a hell of a good deal. So please consider it. It's, the money goes into a slightly separate pot at Daedalian National, and it's reserved for DFT and for scholarships. And it's very, very well managed. Speaking of DFT, overall, there are 37 of 46 total students throughout Daedalian land who soloed. So there were 9 that did not. We're not going to get into how they did not do it. There were some other issues. But we were 4 for 4, thanks to Dan and his flight. We did very, very well this year. So thanks to Z-Man. George, you're over there. Thank you very much to Sky Warrior for everything, for helping us out. I mean, we nailed it, and it's good stuff. All right, as the momentum climbs down just a little bit, the wine on your table, since the Yacht Club is listening, if you absolutely have to have a slightly full bottle of wine, don't tell me, don't show it to either one of these ladies. Put it under your jacket and walk away. If you don't, then leave it on the table, because the Yacht Club recycles it a little bit and serves it, okay? So, we do pay for it in some way, shape, or form, but Scott and Mary and Ruby and everybody else, one of the lay of the law is it's not all ours. But if you absolutely have to have it, don't tell me. All right, here we go. Bad Bob, over to you for the good news. More momentum.
Thank you, Dink. All right, so when I stand up, I'm here to talk generally about our Daedalian flying training program. That's young people flying real airplanes, what we're in business to do. We last year, as you remember, had 4 cadets that went through our program, all of whom soloed. As Dink just mentioned, nationally, sadly, of the number of flights in the country, relatively few actually conduct flying training. So George Sigler, stand up, please. George, stand up over here. I want to recognize you because you are important to our program. He from Sky Warrior is the guy who stands up and provides us with flying training. George, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, so historically, we've done really well. We started our program in 2018, and to date, we've graduated 10 solo students from our program. And I just can't be more proud of all that they've done. Last year, most of you were here when we talked and had our solo students come in and speak. How many people were in the room for our solo briefs last year? Who remembers, excellent, who remembers David Lamb and Abby Driscoll? Do you remember those two? All right, some incredible news I'm about to share. So David Lamb just got his nominations from both Congressman Gates for the U.S. Naval Academy and West Point. So that boy is in the hopper to do good stuff. Abigail Driscoll got her nomination from Senator Scott for the United States Naval Academy. I got a call this afternoon from Abby Driscoll. She has an appointment to the United States Naval Academy for 2022. This is amazing stuff. So I'm here to tell you, the dollars you donate to the Daedalian Flying Training Program produce people like these guys we're sitting at the table with today who are going to end up down here in Pensacola or an Air Force school somewhere and fly the airplanes of our nation in the future. So thank you for those who donated. We plan this year, because National is going to fund up to 3 people at 50% like they did last year. We plan to do at least 4, and if we can collect some extra money, we'll do 5, maybe even 6. Get 6 kids flying airplanes and moving on down the road. So thank you for all you've done. We appreciate it. That's what's cooking in DFT, and we look forward to a great summer. Oh, I got to remember, we will form, as we always do, our selection committee in the springtime. So we will ask for volunteers to help me screen the candidates, because remember, they come from junior and senior ROTC units, and we'll screen those candidates so we pick the right people to go fly airplanes. That's all I got. Unless you got a question, I'm all done. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bad Bob. Yeah, nothing but good news from Shangri-La. That's all I tell National. Nothing but good news from here. You know what we do here and how we provide for everybody that happens. I mean, it's absolutely outstanding. Thank you very much, George. You make it happen out there. Okay, Rachel and Debbie, little perfunctory remarks here, but get your cameras ready, because we're going to do the really fun stuff here and the Daedalians. The Daedalian mission is to be an advocate for air and space power and honor those who flew and fly in defense of our nation. Our objectives: support the active duty, several of whom are here, the Guard and Reserve, educate all to the advantages of air and space power, promote the rewards of careers in military aviation. Gentlemen, I point to you. Honor the legacy of our founder members and all who have flown in defense of our nation. Encourage improvements in flight safety, weapons development, combat support. Recognize exceptional performance by military aviators and recruit new flight members. John, you got a table full of them. And perpetuate the mission and traditions of the order. Buzzard and Fossil, would you please join me at the podium? The flag's a good backdrop. And would you raise your right hand and say, "I will," after I finish. In the presence of God and the members of the Shangri-La Flight of Daedalians, will you forever abide by the tenets of the Daedalians, place nation above self, and be worthy and hold close the trust and confidence of all Daedalians? I will. I will. Congratulations and well done. I got something for you. Add to your collection. Well done. Congratulations to our 2 newest named members. Okay. For all those nearsighted members who up here, this is an eye chart, you may at this time move your chairs farther closer to the screen. You will not disturb the speaker, nor me, nor anyone else here. Please do it if you need to do it. No problem. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. She is Captain Amanda. Her other name tag says Vanessa's mom. She has a lovely 3-year-old daughter. Murray, United States Air Force. She is a senior combat systems officer. She graduated from Georgia State University. She got her wings in 2013. She went to the 16th Special Operations Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. Everybody knows that. Clovis, New Mexico, what a garden spot. We stopped there to refuel many times. She has 2 deployments, both in Operation Inherent Resolve. She also spent some time at the KAYAK and Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. She's an instructor now at the 451st Flying Training Squadron. She's going to fly twice tomorrow, and she said twice on Friday. Outstanding. She has a couple hundred combat hours. She has the Air Medal, Aerial Achievement Medal, and Joint Service Commendation Medal. She has no fear and no filter, and it is my pleasure to introduce Captain Amanda Murray, United States Air Force.
All right, right, guys. Well, I don't know if I can top that introduction. So, like you said, yeah. So I'm from Atlanta, and I graduated college in 2009. I did OTS in 2012. Went through flight school in 2013. I spent 5 years out in New Mexico. I went through the mission qualification training in the AC-130 gunship. And then I got mission qualified back in 2015, and I did, my first flying deployment in late 2015 through early 2016. Then I did my staff deployment in 2017, and then I did another flying deployment in 2018. Then I came here almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years next month, and I've been a flight instructor ever since for the young combat systems officers for the Air Force. And I will add, a side note from my last deployment. So he mentioned my daughter, Vanessa, who is 3 years old. So Vanessa has 28 combat sorties and 128 combat hours. I was pregnant the entire time, and I did not know. It happened right before I left, so what can I say? Anyways, I got a slideshow here, and I'm going to talk a little bit through that and just add some anecdotes. So if you could, or do you got the clicker?
You got it up there.
Oh, just kidding, just kidding. All right. These little black dots right here are friendly positions. This one right here is one of the enemies. They're running away from the gunfire. That's the 25 millimeter gun. Can you pause it? All right, so what this was was a mission in September of 2007. I was still a college student then. I was not on this mission, but this is a perfect example of what the gunship does. We provide close air support for the friendly ground parties. And this man right here, this is Lieutenant Jason Redmond. He's a Navy SEAL and he's retired. He was, so you probably heard in the comms, you know, friendly wounded, blah, 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 blah. That was him that they were referring to. This guy right here was he was shot, I believe, 7 times during this engagement here from the enemies. They were tagged to do a raid on an HVI, high value individual. The house was a dry hole, meaning that there was nothing there. And they saw about 5 people leave a house about 50 yards away from them. And they were like, hey, go follow these guys. And they wound up in a gunfight with them. And he got wounded pretty badly. And you could kind of like see it on his face here, but he was actually shot through the ear and it went through his cheekbone. And he had to have rather extensive surgery, not only on his face, but in other parts of his body. But you can see he's doing pretty well now. This picture was taken back in 2016, by the way. But, you know, the helicopters could not come in and rescue him until the gunship came in and shot upon the enemies who were firing at them, because it would have been too hot for the helicopters to come in. So like that is our primary job, is to provide close air support for the ground parties. And like I wanted to show this because it's such a great example of what the gunship can do. They were only shooting 40 meters from the friendlies. That's like from like me to the back of the room. That's how close they were shooting to the friendlies. All right, so that's me. Oh, yeah, I included a picture of me with the 30 and the 105, you know. And this picture here is the gunship. So I flew on the AC-130W, and I flew on it before it had the 105 and after it had the 105. So this picture is here from before it had the 105. But we carry bombs and missiles. We were the first gunship to do so, actually. And long story short is this, the AC-130W used to be an MC-130W. AFSOC was short on gunships, and they're like, we're just going to turn this into a gunship, and that's exactly what they did. All right, so here's a few pictures that I included. So this one up here in the top left, that is the sunset over New Mexico. I actually took that when we were coming back from one of our deployments. This one here in the top right, I believe I was TDY there, so it was just pretty out that day. I thought it looked nice, you know. And then the one in the bottom right, if you can kind of see it, but right here, there's a tanker right there. So that was on one of my combat sorties. We were going up to go get fuel from the tanker before we went on one of our missions. And then the picture in the bottom left, you can see the gunship's running, you know, the props are turning, and it was just coming into taxi. All right. So, for those of you who are like far back and can't see, you know, it's AC-130 gunship in a nutshell. So we provide close air support, and we have all the high-tech technology, especially with the J model that is now rolling out. And they just went on their first combat deployment back in, I believe it was either 2020 or 2021. But they took over for the other legacy gunships. But we have 2 sensors, you know, all the gunships will. They have, you know, the MX-20 and the MX-25 sensors. They have a large comm suite. I'm not going to name everything that's listed there. But we have the 30 millimeter gun, which is this one here, and the 105 in the back, along with 10 missiles, the AGM-176, and 8 bombs, the GBU-39. As far as the crew goes, on the Whiskey, since it was different, it was basically a modified H-model gunship, so we still had an enlisted flight engineer. In addition to that, we, you know, the pilot, the co-pilot, I was the navigator, and we had the flight engineer. 4 gunners, and then another CISO in the back. The J model, basically the same thing, but minus the flight engineer. So yeah, the primary roles and mission of that, close air support, air interdiction, and any collateral taskings, anything else that they need us to do. So most of the time on my missions out in combat, we would just go out and look at the FLOT and orbit overhead and shoot anything that was coming at them. Most nights, fortunately, were quiet, and even though it might have been a boring night for us, it meant it was a good night for them. If they were not being shot at, that means like they could sleep at night, and they could know that they were safe. And for us, while it may have been boring, but it was good because we were protecting the friendlies on the ground. This is just a bunch of stuff about the sensors. This is from the Whiskey model. We had 2 MX-20 sensors. The J has the MX-20 and the MX-25. There's a lot of different stuff that it can do. The power for this thing is pretty amazing. So this slide here just shows you the CISO here was shooting a 30 millimeter at a tank. This is back in New Mexico. We have a range out there that we shoot a bunch of tanks. But the picture is as clear as day, and you can see so much stuff. The fidelity is pretty awesome there. You can't really see it, but there's a lot of other information on the weapon sight. So the weapon sight is overlaid onto the sensor feed. So myself and the other CISO have the same exact station set up here. We both have the weapon sight overlaid onto the sensor. We can shoot the guns at the same time as well, and we call that dual target attack. So here's a slide just about the comm suite. Yeah, we have a lot of radios. Needless to say, it doesn't matter what, the ground party is using, we'll be able to communicate with them. I'm not gonna belabor this, unless you were in the FTU or something. All right, so I'm gonna go into about the guns a little bit and the other weapons as well. So the 30 millimeter gun, it's just, one gun that sticks out the side, obviously. We can shoot up to 200 rounds per minute, plus or minus 25. We have 2 feeds in the gun. We can fit 250 rounds in each feed, so up to 500 rounds loaded. And the job of the aerial gunners is to reload the guns in flight and troubleshoot any gun malfunctions as well. But it was either me or the other CISO who was actually shooting the guns. Yeah, like it says right here, fired by either CISO. It lists the combat round here. I know you guys don't really care about that. So when the ground party or the JTAC wants to use the guns, he'll give us what's called a 5-line. And we are trained to get rounds out of the airplane within 30 seconds of receiving that 5-line. Yeah, and the bottom line there says, 1,080 rounds with 500 rounds in the feeds for a standard combat load. That's what SCL stands for. All right, so right here just shows how accurate the gun is, as long as you do a good gun tweak and you have a good CISO. So you can see right here on the IR feed, there's a guy who goes in this tunnel right here, and he hides in there. There's no sound to this one, by the way. The blinking on the screen was when the gun shoots. And then you can see, it got him. So now here's 2 guys right here. You can see the blinking. There's a little bit of delay because you got to take into account the time of fall. Yeah. So it got him. Long story short, it's pretty accurate. All right, so the 105, this is the big gun right here. Oh yeah, here's my name tag where it says Vanessa's mom. That's what he was talking about there. I got to represent my girl. I love her. Anyways, so we carried 80 rounds of these, in combat. And if you have a fully checked out gun crew who is also good at what they do, highly proficient, we can shoot up to 10 or 11 rounds per minute. They load them one by one because they're literally this long, and they weigh about 45 pounds each. So you can only load them one at a time, and they got to be manually loaded. What this is talking about down here with the fusing, so there's a lot of different like fusing selections that you can choose for the rounds, and it depends on which type of round you select as well. But the 105 round is cool because you could also select the airburst fuse, and it would, it had like a Doppler thing on it, and it would detect how high it was above the ground before it detonated. And so for this one, it would detonate about 14 feet above the ground and just frag out anyone. And if we did a good combat tweak with this particular round, we could take out a bunch of dudes who were hiding in a trench. All right. So right here, this was actually taken from my Finney flight in the gunship right before I PCS'd here. This right here on the left shows where the rounds are stored. And I was just standing in the back filming this, but the CISO who was at the controls, he was the one aiming the gun, and he's trying to get a good aim point for his target. These two guys here are the gunners, and you can see like they have a computer right here as well. It's like super like highly advanced. Yeah, so he just shot the gun. He took out the shell, and you can see how big this thing is. It's really, really big. And then this is a slow motion video of the 105 coming in, and you'll see it detonate, yeah, right there, right above. All right, so now this one is about the AGM-176. So this is the missile that we have. These things are loaded in the cargo ramp and door of the gunship. And I actually got my first combat kill with the Griffin. It's hanging up in my living room from my ceiling, actually. So yeah, if you ever come to my house and get a tour, you'll see that. But yeah, these are really, really cool. They have about 9,500 little tungsten particles that come out, in the Muse warhead. And it's designed so they could frag out everything, like within a sphere. Because the predecessor to the Block 3 was the Block 2, and there was a cone of life, so they kind of fixed that. So if you're getting shot at with one of these or the Block 3 variant, chances are you're probably not going to live. Anyways, we can carry 10 in the door. So the cargo ramp and door in the C-130 kind of works like this, if anyone's been in a C-130. So you got the one door that goes down like this and the other one that goes up. So they're actually in the door, the upper one. And when they come out, they kind of shoot backwards like this, and then the rocket motor fires, and then it goes forwards. And these things are guided in with a laser. So by the CISO, aka me, I got to laser in onto the target. And they have, it says roughly 30-second time of flight. It could be anywhere between like 25 and 45, just depending on how far and how high you are from the target. So this right here was a Ripple 2. So you're going to see 2 Griffins hit this truck. So there's the first one. And the second one. And the last one we have is a GBU-39. So we carry 4 in each wing. So you can see on this wing right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. They only weigh 250 pounds, and there's 3 different variants. We can't mix up the variant types on the wing, so it's going to be 1 variant per wing, but we can have 2 different variants. So like on one wing, we'll have the Bravo, and the other wing, we'll have the Bravo, which is the laser variant. And we can drop up to 4 at a time, but they'll all be coming from the same wing. These are really cool because it allows us more of a standoff capability. So, I personally haven't experienced this, but one of my coworkers did, and a AAA was shooting at them, It was on Christmas Day, of all things. I hadn't deployed yet when this happened, but they're like, oh, that's cute. They just moved back a little bit and, you know, found the AAA position and dropped a bomb on it and took it out. No big deal, right? I mean, if it was a SAM system, that'd be a different story. But, you know, for AAA, we're just like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, we can carry up to 8 of these. Before I get into this, yeah, so like some of the new emerging technology on the J, they're also going to carry the Hellfire missiles and the GBU-69. The GBU-69 is a different type of bomb variant. It's carried in the same canister that the Griffin missile is. We call it a common launch tube, you know, also in the cargo rampant door of the C-130. And I believe the way they're doing it is they're going to carry like 5 of those and then 5 Griffins. But that's just some new emerging technology that's coming up with that. Yeah, as far as what I did, so I was a navigator on the Whiskey. So I started out in the flight deck, then I moved to the back for the tactical stuff. So I was in the flight deck for takeoff, landing, air fueling, ocean navigation, and if we were just going somewhere for a while. And then once we got to the close to the tactical portion, I moved to the back and sat next to the other CISO. And we had identical stations, and you'll see a picture of that here in the next couple of slides. And we both operated a sensor along with the weapons, and our stations mirrored each other. We both had the sensor feed with the weapons sight, and we had 2 hand control units, 1 for the sensor and 1 for the guns. But yeah, I had to come up with the flight plan and, you know, back up the CISO as the navigator on the Whiskey model anyway. I don't know exactly how they're doing it for the J. I know they still have some enlisted sensor operators on it. Yeah, manage the flight logs and keep track of our weapons and come up with good weaponeering solutions. So this is from the flight deck. This was my station at the nav station, just behind the co-pilot. This is where I input the flight plan. You can see some of our defensive systems here. And this was my view. This was actually when we were coming into lodges, coming back from one of our deployments. And we, quote unquote, broke here for about a week. It was a free vacation. It was great. And then here's some of the stuff from the back. So this is actually from the J. So this is what it looks like on the J model, but this is where I would have sat if I were on the J, right here. So this is, right on this screen is like what you would see right here. And on this screen right here is where the weapons sight and the sensor feed would be. Down here in the bottom right is how we would assign the weapons to the targets. And this is actually like a really old version of the software. This is like version 4.7. They're probably on version, I don't know, 4.15 or something like that. Maybe even 5 point something. But it was a very capable software, showed us exactly what we had, time of fall and everything like that. This picture right here, it's kind of blurry, but this was actually one of my training sorties when I was still in the formal training unit, getting qualified on the gunship. And right here, this is a picture with me with one of my favorite flight engineers ever. So, funny story, he used to be a flight engineer on the HC-130, and when we were TDY to Arizona, he took us to this bar called the Meat Rack. You can only imagine what went on in there. So, yeah, like they had a sex dungeon and everything. It was crazy. And one of our gunners, it was his birthday candle was something I won't even mention. And one of the maintainers, he got a brand on his butt. Yeah, it was a wild time. All thanks to this guy right here. You know, if you're going TDY with him, you knew you're going to have a good time. And for those of us who are in the military, you all could probably relate to that. Yeah, and this picture here was from my last deployment. This was in Iraq. the best crew ever. The aircraft commander was awesome. He always made sure that we all felt included in everything. Nobody was an outcast or anything like that. And yeah, this was this guy right here, Andrew Miller, such a great guy. This is me down here in the bottom left. I was pregnant in that picture, but I didn't know. No big deal, right? Yeah. And, but yeah, so that was like a really great deployment. We got to, do a couple of pretty cool ops. Like I was a part of a medevac on like one particular flight. And, the friendly, he was wounded and he got home safely, which was awesome. There was another one where some SEALs came in to like swap out some collection doodad or something or another. But we were just overhead doing armed overwatch and, making sure that nothing was going to come at them. They were able to do their thing and then get out safely, which was great. We did like a training mission in Iraq, of all places, with the 160th SOAR, which is the Special Operations Aviation Regiment in the Army, for those of you who don't know. Bunch of warrant officers who are awesome helicopter pilots, and they wanted to do some training with us and test out some new tactics, techniques, and procedures, and that was a lot of fun, too. But yeah, like this deployment, it was pretty awesome. I will say, like, most days I was sleeping 12 to 14 hours, though, and my crewmate was like, something's wrong with you. That is not right. But I just didn't know that it's because I was pregnant during that time. All right, guys. With that being said, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
How many of these planes do we have? Squadrons, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, he asked how many planes. So there were 37, I know that much. But with the U retiring and the whiskey model retiring and they're replacing with the J, I'm not sure what that number is right now, but I know that they probably want to bring it back to 37 for sure. Go ahead. For the guns, anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000 feet AGL. And then for the bombs and missiles, around 8 and 10 MSL. So like we had a little bit of a sweet spot depending on what the elevation was below us.
Amanda, did you only fly assault support or support missions at night? Did you ever fly during the day?
I never flew during the day. And I know that some folks flew during the day in Afghanistan, but that was about a year or two before I started flying in the gunship. And it was, I believe it was Spirit 03. They got shot down in the Gulf War back in '91, and it was like during sunrise when that happened. They were trying to support, I believe it was a Marine unit on the ground, and they extended to stay overhead, and then once the sun started coming up, the enemy was able to see them, and I believe it was an SA-7, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that shot them down.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Do you do any interdiction?
We do, yeah. So they were doing a lot of cool stuff. This was when I was on my staff deployment. So like, I was sitting at a desk. I didn't get to participate in this, but I got to, hear about it from my friends who were deployed, like flying the hacking the Mish basically. And ISIS boats are going to and from like, across the Euphrates River in Syria, like all the time. And so they got tasked to just like shoot up a bunch of boats. That sounded like a lot of fun, and I'm kind of sad I missed that. Go ahead.
Is your unit on alert with what's going on in Ukraine?
Probably. Like, since I've been so far removed for the past 3 years, I honestly don't know, but I would not be surprised if they were. Yeah.
Can you repeat the questions for the people who are viewing online?
Oh, yeah, sure.
The questions.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? So, yeah, the question was, do we have any surface-to-air missile jamming? On the latest and greatest gunships, unfortunately, no. And, like, it kind of sucks. Like, you know, the U model had the ALQ-172, which was a jammer. It was a jamming pod. But the Whiskey never had that, and the J doesn't have that. And with that, you know, the electromagnetic spectrum is, you know, it's blowing up again. Like, that's kind of a bad way to describe it, but the Air Force just kind of like left it behind for a while, and now they're trying to play catch up with that. But they're trying to like get everyone back up to speed with that. And you know, right down the street, you know, where I'm an instructor at, the 479th anyways, they have the EMSO schoolhouse, you know, for all the EWO stuff. But yeah, long story short, we do not, at the moment anyway.
So that piqued my curiosity. So you don't have any, like, APR, ALQ on board? So do you always operate in a stack if it's, like, medium risk or worse? Or is that, am I in the wrong room?
You're good. Let's just say we're not going to go where it's like a super high risk, you know? I mean, we do have countermeasures, but we just don't have a way to jam.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where's your next tour then after Pensacola?
Yeah, he asked where my next tour is. So I'm hoping for Hurlburt, you know, because I was at Cannon for 5 years, and then I've been here for 3 years. So the next logical conclusion would be Hurlburt. So, but we'll see. That has yet to be determined. All right, and I think that's it.
Stay right here. Thank you very much, Amanda. We appreciate it. Okay, the reason that she's standing right here is I've gotten a couple email responses to the RSVP list about flight suits and aviation attire and so on. We are doing it at our next meeting, April 14th. Mike Riesberg put me up to it, and we're going to follow through. Okay, so what we're doing is Bulb Adams, a flight member, F-8 guy, bagged a couple of times in North Vietnam, but he got out both times on the Oriskany. And Dan Lestage, who was a flight surgeon on the Oriskany, treated him at the same time, both flight members. So as a tribute to them and to set the atmosphere, we are going to dress up in whatever fits. It looks like that. So some of us, we're going to look great in that, some of us are not. So figure out the alternative. So that's what we're going to do in April. But thank you very much, Amanda. Put them together. She did a great job. Good stuff. So our collective job, since most of us are retired, is to make sure she gets to Hurlburt for her next assignment. She's going to do great. Okay, well, thank you very much. Another great evening. Thank you very much to everybody here that made it possible, Yogi and Mumbles and Obi and so on and so forth. To the guys here who are flight training, good luck to you. We're behind you 100%. And to Fossil and Skin Cat, we got to give the Marines great credit. They got the best call signs ever. Skin Cat, we'll ask that later. Fossil, we already know what that means. We got Buzzard and Mumbles and everybody else. They take it away. George, thank you very much for Sky Warrior. Looking forward to another great year. Thank you. We'll see you back in April. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.